The Big Picture, a Christian insight on the world of film, television and popular culture with magazine editor Ben McEachen and scriptwriter Mark Hadley. 3D glasses on, amps to 11, screens to maximum. Get ready for The Big Picture.
It's kicking off our Academy Award coverage. Our review is of one of the biggest Oscar hopefuls, biggest Oscar contenders this year. Most people, but when they first heard about the title of this film, Mark, they said, what the what? What? But The Revenant has gone on to create all manner of fuss with critics and audiences. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Oscar-nominated Leonardo DiCaprio, it's the story of a fur trapper who's left for dead in the American wilderness, whose thirst for revenge fuels his will to live.
What happened?
We did what we had to do.
He was buried right.
All I had was my boy, and he took him from me, you understand? He's afraid. He knows how far I came to find him.
The Revenant is basically an unexpected box office sensation. It was the big contender against Star Wars, The Force Awakens, but no one really expected to do fantastically well, not against a juggernaut like that. And then The Revenant goes and knocks Star Wars off its top spot in most markets around the world 3 weeks into release. To date, The Revenant has earned about $381 million at the box office, and given its performances in award shows, it's possibly going to do a lot better yet. It's a tidy return against a budget of less than a third of that. Okay,
Yeah.
so 3-to-1 investment, got to be happy with that.
I'll say.
On its opening weekend, it actually returned 70% more tickets than the distributors expected. You know, that is, as far as metrics go, that's pretty amazing. The Revenant has received generally positive reviews across the board. If you're into stuff like Rotten Tomatoes and things, it's at 7.9 out of 10, and Metacritic gives it a 76 out of 100.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah. And most people have praised DiCaprio's rather silent but committed performances as the hunted, starving, severely wounded, bare, mauled woodsman Hugh Glass.
Guy who drags himself through ice for about an hour and a half.
Who's determined to track down the man who left him for dead whilst dragging himself through ice for yet another hour and a half. Look, DiCaprio won the Golden Globe for the Best Actor with The Revenant. The film also picked up Best Director and Best Motion Picture for the Golden Globes. There's also a host of Screen Actors Guild, Critics' Choice Guilds, but in fact, it's so loaded down with awards at this point that there's real danger of capsize. The Revenant has also been nominated for 12 Academy Awards for tomorrow night.
12? Couldn't muster up 13 Revenants?
I don't know what it's thinking it's doing. Frankly, poor effort. Look, The Revenant is a film that many people have heard about already, so we're kind of not doing the traditional review. But if you haven't understood the impact of it so far, it's a big name for this year in film.
But why is it enjoying such the impact that it has, especially going back to that title, which just sounded like a movie that people would keep their distance from? And it did seem like, even from the trailer, it seemed a bit like this is an art house special that could potentially break out, but it's really done that in a massive way. But why do you think that's the case? Yeah,
look, you're right. It sits across things. So it is basically an art house film. It is about the deep, cold center of America during settlement, not even at an interesting point. You know, to be honest, it's not like there's no revolutions going on or anything like that. Yet it is a thrilling tale because it basically combines some real action elements, like quite possibly the most brutal bear attack sequence ever filmed.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah, and Indian attacks and things like that, with really a deep-seated examination of the motivations of the human heart. So it is crossing people who might normally go, I'm a thinking film person, with action film people, and it's just found that sweet spot.
Is it going to leave us
and
with...
it's got Leonardo DiCaprio, which seems to get a lot
guy.
of people.
Now, a bit later in the show, we're going to get to our own Oscar predictions, where we're going to open our own envelopes from each other, and we're going to read out each other's predictions in categories like actor and film and director. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. We'll talk more about Leonardo DiCaprio then, although you might want to talk about it right now, because my next question for you is, what do you think The Revenant's going to leave us with? You mentioned bear attack, you mentioned diving into the cold, dark heart of America. Is that what we'll be left with, or is there more?
I think it's going to leave us with, kind of memorable performances. So, like, this will probably go reflected in the Academy Awards. Tom Hardy as a villain, is particularly well done. Leonardo DiCaprio reminds us of that whole dark heart thing going, and also the determination of the human heart. It's going to put Revenant into the vocabulary. For those who
We
don't
won't run a
know-
mile from Revenant.
For those who don't know, and here's our helpful little handy definition: Revenant means a ghost that won't stay dead. So basically a spook of some form that's sort of, chasing the living. But I think what it's going to do ultimately is it is going to clang with the audience.
What do you mean? Really?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you quite liked the movie,
Oh,
did
I love
you not?
it. I love it. But I think there's the message. It's great for critics, this film. And this is what the Academy Awards, amongst other things, do.
That's
Critics
me in my critic's voice.
Critics look at stuff and go, wow, that's fantastic.
What do critics like about it?
Well, critics like the performances. To be honest, I think, we'll get onto this a bit more with the Academy Awards. I think there's going to be a reflection because there's a few people who have been hanging on for an Academy Award who are going to probably get rewarded.
Does their surname rhyme with DiCaprio?
But look, I think the interesting reason it's going to clang with audiences is because it is a revenge plot. And the typical cycle of a revenge plot is, despite all odds, the good guy will get his against the bad guy. Now, I don't want to give away the ending. That to some degree happens, but not the way people think. In fact, what the ultimate message of the film is not you should go out and get revenge, but rather you should leave this to God. And
you think that's the bit that's going to clang with people?
This is the thing that's going to clang because...
that people will be wanting something far different from the film.
I think people will be getting the unexpected. And that you don't often get big returns based on the unexpected. Sometimes you do, like The Sixth Sense. If you haven't seen that, I won't spoil that for you either. But, the twist and the tail, sure, that can be good. But this is a very classic revenge plot. And yet multiple times through the film, whether it be in the voice of Native Americans or it be in the voice of DiCaprio himself or people who are observing from the side, revenge is something that is supposed to be left up to God. Only He can actually deliver it properly and in a balanced way. And when we deliver it, we actually diminish ourselves. Now, I don't think that's the popular view of bad guys should get what's coming to them. I think instead it's, trust to your own hand, not trust to God. And that to me, I think is a really interesting thing. But that will be left, when people think about that and they'll have to think about the plot line, I think they will see that is just not where we normally go. So for me, that's not a bad thing to leave people with.
If you haven't yet seen The Revenant, expect to hear a lot more about it in the next couple of days because it is well expected to, if not dominate, pick up a number of Oscars.
It should get at least Best Bear performance.
Finally, the bears get acknowledged. Revenant is still at cinemas all over the place. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hardy, and Brooklyn's own Domhnall Gleeson, and it's rated MA15+ for strong bloody violence, themes, and sexual violence.
The Big Picture is a Bible Society Australia production and part of Hope 1032's family of podcasts and vodcasts.